Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidate interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Kathleen Fullen, and I would like to introduce John Guequierre, running for Alder in District 19. As we begin, please give an opening statement about the educational, vocational, and civic experience you have, which prepares you for this office, and why you are running for Alder.
Thank you. I am Alder John Guequierre, running for re-election. I have a long educational and professional background in finance and accounting, information technology, building affordable housing that is also energy efficient. I've also had many experiences in the civic and nonprofit area, usually in a leadership position, often involved in the same things I'm interested in professionally. 2 years ago, I decided that my experience has fitted me for Madison's current challenges: housing supply crisis, a structural deficit, and the need for reducing Madison's carbon footprint and investing in climate resilience. In taking my seat a year ago, my efforts to do the right things made me realize that any decision would be unpopular on a couple of subjects, but having never been interested in and having no intention of becoming a career politician, I can deal with unpopularity and understand that. My experience has put me on the Plan Commission, Board of Public Works, Housing Strategy Committee, and Community Development Block Grant Committee, all of which are at the center of some of our most important decision-making, and I'm confident I can continue to make a positive impact during another 2-year term. Thank you.
How would you evaluate the city's current efforts to address homelessness and increase the amount of affordable housing? Are there additional steps the city should take to address these issues?
Thanks for that most important question. What I've learned with my positions on multiple committees and boards dealing with housing is that we have to stretch our dollars to have the biggest possible impact, especially for families earning less than 50% of the area median income. Madison's focusing on zoning and incentives for development along major transit routes, and that makes a lot of sense. But there's more we can do. We can employ innovative financing. I'm proud of our efforts to allocate tax incremental financing to a major project on University Research Park. I'm sponsoring a package of ordinance changes which make it easier to build a full range of shapes and sizes of housing, from single-family detached to missing middle to workforce housing. And we can reduce the cost of construction by encouraging more prefabrication and possibly automating the permitting process, at least in part. Specifically with regard to homelessness, we just need more supply. This is a demand and supply situation. We're pricing people, especially at the lower income levels, out of the market. We need to prevent ourselves from eliminating existing affordable housing. We need to keep people who are often stretched because of our housing costs from losing their housing so they don't become homeless. And then we need to invest in shelters for the most difficult cases of people with everything from addictions to mental health difficulties. Thank you.
What actions or programs would you support to enhance public safety in Madison? And in particular, what is your position on the use of body cameras by Madison police officers, given the recent demonstration project?
Well, I've read the results of that project. It's very positive in terms of our ability to carry it out. I think if we can find the funding, it's going to be helpful. I'm certainly mindful of a comment from a police officer that I respect, who happens to be Black, and who said, if one of my boys got stopped, I would feel much more comfortable if I knew there was going to be a camera. So there's lots of reasons to do it. On the other hand, we have to balance that with the funding we have, which is very tight. And when we look at the peer-reviewed studies for the effect of various programs we have, including on cities that have long held cameras and use them, it has an impact, but it's not demonstrably one of the best impacts we can achieve. Whereas continuing to support things like community policing, good training, cultural training for our officers, and maintaining or expanding the CARES program so that we route issues of mental health outside of the police force when we can. All of those are important, and I think we need to be sure we can sustain those before we make $1 million to, I've seen estimates as high as $6 million a year in operating costs for the camera project.
In the wake of the recent referendum to increase property taxes, what are your priorities for the city budget?
Well, that was quite a year, wasn't it? And I would say that in District 19, there's probably no larger issue than just the high point, the high size of our tax base, and our taxes that are falling on our families that are often a fixed income position. So it's really important to work on it. And I would say that there are three things at least that we need to do. One is I'm pledging that I will not support any further referenda in the foreseeable future. We did that once. It's probably the right thing to do, but we can't do that again. We've got to work on the other things. Second, the real problem is the state's formula for revenue sharing. And I'm going to contribute to Madison's efforts to work alongside a consortium of Dane County cities. I've talked to some of the mayors. They're all concerned about this situation, and other Wisconsin cities, because they're all suffering from the current formulas for revenue sharing and availability of sales tax. I'll do what I can. And then third, I want to continue to work on our first ever 5-year operating plan. We've never had one before. First time I ever spoke in council, it was at a presentation on our long-term problem with taxes. And my response, the first thing I ever said was, this is a long-term problem. We need a long-term solution. We did that when we adopted the budget and the long-range plan, and we need to work that plan, work on the things that we can do to improve efficiency, use the proper allocation of our rainy day fund, and look at where we can raise fees without too much difficulty. Thank you.
How should Madison balance the need for development with other concerns, such as traffic, historic preservation, and conservation of natural areas?
Another great question. Development, even highly affordable housing development, is not sustainable without attention to all of the other components of a vibrant environment that works for everyone. Madison is growing precisely because of the balance that we have achieved in the past. Now we've got to preserve that. And approaches which sound good, but are just anti-growth, are not the solution that we need. Our challenge is to match infrastructure investment with population growth. And I think the work begins, as I've been learning, with planning. I've been deeply involved in the West Area Plan, which was completed in 2024, the Southwest Area Plan, which is now underway, and I've also been involved in the update to our Madison Sustainability Plan. These things look at that balance that we need to achieve and guide us in how we invest in a range of things, not just affordable housing at the expense of everything else. Thank you.
What are the most critical issues that you see facing the people in your district, and what would you propose to address these?
Well, the fact is, just looking at an email count of things that I receive, or when I go to neighborhood meetings and get input, the subject that we've already discussed with regard to high taxes and the referendum is the key thing. And I'll just repeat my commitment to 3 ways that I hope to work on that. Probably the second most common thing I hear about is speeding. You know, it's traffic violations in the area. And there are, I know this may seem trivial compared to the demands in some other, but people are worried about the safety, and especially the safety of children. I think of the discussions I've had with people along the strip of District 19 between the Beltline and Schrader Road, whose kids have to cross Schrader, often just barely missed by speeding cars who aren't paying attention. So there's things we can do about that. I've just got a higher priority talking to our Midtown new captain on the use of our digital boards that give you feedback on your speeding. They seem to have effect. I've just responded to an email from a Spring Harbor resident about, hey, how fast can we get one of those 20-mile-per-hour signs? Yeah, but there's also a variety of things that we can do to improve traffic structures and so forth that calm and slow down people where they need to be, how we synchronize traffic lights and so forth. And I've got a pretty good relationship with the traffic engineering division where that happens. And I'd like to work some more on perhaps how we prioritize. We assign a priority code to every suggestion somebody sends in for improving traffic safety. And I think we may need to do a little work on that algorithm to change the priorities, and that may show us why we need to shift some investment into that area in the future.
What would you like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
Well, let me say this. My professional work, as well as my years of volunteer work in a wide range of nonprofits and civic organizations, has taught me about how to get results in almost any kind of organization. A strident voice, arrogance, purposely alienating your colleagues and staff never works. We accomplish big things as a team, and that starts with insisting on the kind of mutual respect that survives occasional disagreement, because disagreements are inevitable. And I respect the ability and the sacrifice of all of my colleagues on the council, and I have an intense admiration for the work of our city employees. I think that I have communicated that over the past year, and it has allowed me to contribute to our accomplishments rather than sit on the sidelines as an ignored annoyance. We have more to do in this wonderful city that has become the economic engine of Wisconsin. Please let me continue to contribute. Thank you.
I want to thank John Guequierre for speaking with us and thank the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. I want to remind everyone that the general election is Tuesday, April 1st. Every election is important. Please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, I thank you for joining us.